Outstanding. Outstanding. Good to see you, Harold. Welcome to all. What a blessing. We have an esteemed guest tonight, Mr. Vongani Bevula. And he's going to excuse me if I mispronounce anything in it, but I want to welcome all of you to our live stream of Aesthetically Speaking Music, ASM, or ASM Aesthetically Speaking Music, however we choose to do it. And we are going to have just an incredible session tonight, and I'm so glad to see everybody that have joined us either on Zoom or on YouTube. So without any further ado, I do want to introduce and welcome our esteemed staff, Juan Cardoso and Ilham Temet, and then we will read and welcome Brother Bevula as soon as we're done. Go ahead, Ilham, you're first.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Greetings. And yeah, like you said, I cannot add more than you said. I'm so curious and impatient to know more about Vongani, his music, and music in South Africa. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here and welcome everybody.
Happy to have you, sister. Yes, of course. Juan?
Thank you.
Hey, welcome everyone. Yeah, we are very, very thrilled to have this session tonight and know more not only about this great musician with this amazing career, Vongani Bevula, but also about this opera scene in South Africa and all the greatness, all the beauty as we just saw in this first piece. And yeah, it's outstanding. I'm learning a lot and I'm hoping to learn even more tonight. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube, please press the like button, share these with opera loving friends or classical music loving friends who might not know so much about South African music. You know, let's spread out this word because we're gonna have a beautiful session tonight. And that's it. Thank you all. Thank you, Vongani, for being here. And yeah, let's do this.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you. Obrigado. You know, I'm going to say what a blessing this is to be in the garden, as always. And Brother Vongani, we will certainly want you to speak on the excerpt from the opera that we just saw. But I'm going to read your bio so people can become familiar with you, those that aren't, and they can always get on their computers and they can find out so much about what you have done and what you're doing. Do you want to put his name in the chat, Juan, so everybody will be sure? And Vongani Bevula was born in South Africa, where he began studying music at the University of Venda before transferring to the University of Cape Town. There, he completed his Bachelor of Music and Performance with a minor in musicology. In Cape Town, he worked for the Cape Town Opera in various roles, including as a singer, in public relations, and in fundraising. After a year in Cape Town, he simultaneously completed 2 master's degrees, one in opera performance at the Hochschule für Musik Franz Liszt Weimar. I know that's wrong, but I'm gonna get through it anyway. You can correct me when you want to, brother. You know, and another in opera direction and musicology at the Verona Academy per one Opera Italiana in Vermont, Italy. Italiano in Algiers. Okay, Rossini. I'm just gonna. Okay. Anyway, during his studies, Vongani worked for the theaters such as the Teatro Alla Scala de Milano, of course, La Scala de yeah, right. And the Stratz Theater, Hanover, and the Deutsches Nationaltheater and the Stadtkapelle. You're going to have to correct me on this because these are my German is not that good. I haven't been there in a while. And the Landstheater, Eichsnach, and more. He also directed Cavalleria Rusticana and the Pagliacci at the State Opera Varna in Bulgaria. Okay. Additionally, he is pursuing a doctorate at Northwest University in South Africa. His research focuses on various composition techniques that blend Western classical music with African elements to produce South African art music, particularly South African opera. Vongani Bevula is a former recipient of the Oppenheimer Memorial Trust Scholarship for Talented Individuals, the Drager Foundation, and the Ackerman Family Foundation for Talented Musicians, the HIC Foundation, and the National Arts and Culture Bursary for Overseas Studies. Since the 2022-23 season, Vongani Bevula has been engaged as an assistant director and evening performer manager at the MIR. Forgive me for the mispronunciations, brother. And if you want to go and click, don't kick me out of class. But I want to welcome you, and what a blessing it is to have you. And you can start wherever you choose, and with corrections. Thank you, brother.
Thank you for the introduction. I really appreciate that. There won't be any corrections at all. It isn't your first language, and frankly, you have to learn it to be able to pronounce it quite well. However, your attempt is highly appreciated, and for attempt, I give you 10 out of 10.
Thank you. You're so kind.
So, my name is Vongani. I am an opera singer and opera stage director, born and raised in South Africa. I am pretty soon to be a German citizen because I've been in Germany a long time now. And today I would love to talk about South African opera in particular. There's quite a lot in classical music that I can talk about in South Africa. Symphony, quartets, and all that is quite vibrant and prominent in South Africa. But for this meeting, I will focus only on South African opera rather. Now, before we go any further, we need to look at the history of South Africa as a republic. And for that, we have to go back to the 1800s when the first ship arrived at the bottom of Africa in Cape Town, and all the things they brought along with them, not only their guns and whatnot, but they also brought their music and culture. And in that, it's where we find opera. It was way in the 1800s that the first opera in South Africa was performed in Cape Town by visiting companies that came to entertain travelers. So now let's look at Cape Town in particular. Cape Town being at the bottom of Africa at a time before the Suez Canal in Egypt. Anybody that needed to get to the east of our planet needed to come through Cape Town and stop in Cape Town for refreshments, fresh water, and food. before they continue to the east to go do their business and come back to Europe. Then Cape Town became a harbor where people would stop and do their business, and some of them stayed and made it home because of the beauty that the city offers. And through that, a very strong European culture was established. And in that culture, of course, comes opera. And through many years with the money that was available at the time with the Dutch East India Company, which was a Dutch company that traveled around the world for spices and gold and all that, they created a vibrant, strong community of Europeans in Cape Town at the bottom of Africa. And to maintain and sustain that European culture, some of their cultural things needed to be upheld. That meant their food, their music, which of course includes opera, which of course meant a lot of people came from Europe as touring companies in Cape Town, which was the first touch of opera in Cape Town. Now, years goes by and South Africa becomes a republic and all that. Many opera houses are built in South Africa. South Africa, they know what opera is. Now, let's skip, let's say, to 1970 as a random number that I pick out of. Then in the 1970s, South Africa was a very strong republic in Africa, rich in every aspect of the word rich, in minerals, in money, in culture, in European culture and African culture, also including Eastern culture, because all those years that they were going to the East to get slaves to transport back to Europe or America, some of those slaves could not travel through. They were sick and it was clear they wouldn't make the trip. So they were dropped and left in Cape Town. They formed a community. Today, when I say to an American there are colored people, it's a term that is not used anywhere else in the world, but in South Africa. When I say colored people in South Africa, I mean a specific group of race of people that are not black like myself, nor white, but they are mixed. And they have formed, I can send a video on that and a few pictures to show you what they look like. So that became a prominent group of people. Now, going back to opera, during the 70s and the 80s in South Africa, the white minority, of course, celebrated the very strong European culture, which is opera, symphonies, and all those. And they started composing some of their music to promote white nationalism. And they composed some operas and symphonies in all that. However, in 1990, Nelson Mandela was released from prison. And in 1994, he became president of the Republic of South Africa. And the question stood, should we then continue giving millions and millions of euros to a few minority to promote Western classical European music at the bottom of Africa? Or should we try find a way where we can incorporate Western classical music or African music incorporated with Western classical music to form something that we identify as our own? And of course, as you can imagine, there have been a lot of debates. A lot of people have been against it. There are a lot of articles in the South African Journal of Musicology in which people didn't shy away to say statements like, you can't mix music with black music.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was pure racism at some instances. However, in that, there were a few white individuals, like my former professor at the University of Cape Town, Peter Glatzo, may his soul rest in peace, where he asked a question that South Africa as it is today needs an antidote that is going to help us to maneuver through the racial discriminations in the past that we've gone through. Shouldn't then we try as much as possible to find what works and what doesn't work, and use all musical cultures of this country to produce something that we could identify as our own? At the time in South Africa, there were no black prominent opera composers, mainly because at the time we were not even allowed to go to the theater to watch an opera. So the chances of somebody knowing what opera was was very limited. However, as the years went by, we were suddenly allowed to go to university. Not only the Bantu universities, I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. Bantu universities. Bantu universities, there were two Bantu universities in South Africa at the time. The Fort Hare University in the Eastern Cape of South Africa, and what we call today the University of Limpopo. It was University of the North. Those two institutions in South Africa were the only institutions where people of color were given admission. However, when apartheid ended, then we could go to other universities to study whatever we wanted to study. And today, as I speak, I can easily name 5 black composers that compose opera.
Mm.
So it comes a long way. Now, going back to opera, South African opera. Now I want to focus on the period between 1990 and where we are today, 2024, with it being clear that South Africa is moving forward and that European culture was not going to get preference over African culture. So whoever managed to merge African music with Western classical music to promote something that we can easily identify as our own. African music has a lot of beautiful things. The call and response, the I don't even know where to start. It has a lot to offer. Then a few people started composing opera, real opera, where they mixed both African elements and Western elements to produce something that we clearly identify today as South African opera. Now, I would love Juan to